What's up everyone, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful 24 official channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. Does Thomas surprise everyone with his upcoming love? Thomas Forrester was furious over the Bold and the Beautiful document. He appeared prepared to go completely crazy when he seized Brooke Logan. Fortunately, his father came into the design area and stepped in. In a verbal altercation that was at times passionate and at other times poignant, Ridge Forrester ordered his son to retreat. Thomas unexpectedly turned an emotional corner as a result. It was a turning point when Thomas acknowledged that it was deeply embedded in his thoughts and then embraced Brooke. The audience witnessed a seemingly significant development that alters the course of this plot. At last, Ridge Forrester reached him. Ridge informed Thomas that he was an adult with a successful career and a son who loved him. In fact, since Thomas returned from New York after the untimely death of Douglas Forrester's mother, Caroline Spencer, his innate artistic talent has grown splendidly. When Thomas heard his father speak, he could see how earnest his eyes were. Ridge needed a wake-up call after Brooke's near drowning, and the mention of it helped Thomas change his perspective. The viewer should be ready for a new trajectory for everyone concerned, rather than going back to a time when a mentally unstable Thomas seeks some kind of sinister retribution against Brooke. Bravo to everyone who contributed to the unexpected finale sequence at Forrester Creations. It was well executed and convincing, which is a tribute to the characters, the storyline, and the camera work in a tight visual. Awaiting Steffi Forrester Finnegan's response. Prior to Thomas's realization, it was simple to predict Steffi Forrester Finnegan's response. Thomas would tip her off, bring her home, and then pile on. However, Thomas has positioned himself as a mediator. Steffi will probably continue to support her mother and scold Brooke. Steffi, however, is unlikely to overreact. She might view the developments as inevitable, just like Thomas did. This relates to Taylor Hayes' statement that Thomas shouldn't hold Brooke accountable, which is accurate. It's all him, as Ridge himself stated. Maintaining Thomas Forrester in California's Los Angeles. Hopefully, the consistently excellent Atkinson will be a long-term member of the cast. There was a noticeable void created by his absence during the past year. Thomas's quick acceptance of his father's choice to call off his engagement to Taylor and remarry Brooke within a few hours of the same day has left all soap operas open. In order to start designing in-house, he may go back to Forrester Creations. For his part, Thomas needs a new love interest. It's interesting to see if that woman is a new interest or an old one. Rejecting Hope Logan's future endeavors would appear appropriate and consistent with the recent shift in direction brought forth by acknowledging Ridge and Brooke's reunion. When Thomas Forrester turned away from his spiraling resentment toward Brooke Logan and instead allowed his father Ridge Forrester's words to break through the armor of anger that had long defined him, viewers of the Bold and the Beautiful were taken aback. This moment where an enraged Thomas almost lost control in the design room, only to stop in his tracks when Ridge stepped in and demanded he face his truth, signaled not only a shift in the character's internal compass, but also the potential beginning of a whole new romantic chapter that no one, not even the most ardent soap historians, could have predicted. Could have foreseen, as for once, Thomas did not double down on manipulation, he did not descend into vengeful obsession, he did not rely on the tortured drama of Hope Logan or the haunting memories of Caroline Spencer. Instead he allowed himself to breathe, to embrace Brooke, and to look into his father's eyes and see a reflection of love and hope instead of condemnation. In that awkward, raw, and cathartic embrace, fans witnessed not only forgiveness but the sowing of the seeds for Thomas's next great love story, one that could surprise everyone, from Steffi Forrester Finnegan to Taylor Hayes to Hope herself, because as Ridge reminded his son, he was an adult with a successful career. A thriving talent, and most importantly, a son who loved him, Douglas Forrester, the boy whose very presence bound Thomas to his better angels, and with Ridge's words echoing like a mantra, "It's all you, not Brooke," the story suddenly opened 1,000 speculative doors about where Thomas might channel his renewed emotional clarity and whether his romantic compass would finally point toward someone new, fresh, and unburdened by the poisonous cycles of past betrayals, or whether fate, that cunning soap opera architect, would bring him back to familiar territory in an unexpected way, because Steffi's expected reprimand of Brooke now put him in an unfamiliar position, bridge builder rather than wrecking ball, peacekeeper rather than instigator, and it is precisely in that role that he could attract the attention of someone who values stability and strength over chaos. Perhaps a returning legacy character, perhaps a woman like Paris Buckingham whose ambition and moral compass might match his, or even a shocking crossover toward someone who once would have seemed unthinkable, like Katie Logan, who has long craved steady devotion, or even Electra Forrester, the wild card who entered the scene full of vitality. However, what makes this trajectory so rich with potential is that Thomas's love life has always been at the center of his storylines, and his past with Hope Logan, while passionate, creative, and occasionally tender, was also toxic, tainted by manipulation and unhealthy fixations. Therefore, the recent arc in which Thomas acknowledges Ridge's decision to remarry Brooke, and more importantly, accepts it without anger, provides the strongest indication yet that the writers are determined to transform him into a leading man rather than an unhinged foil. And doing so entails providing him with a romance that respects his development, confronts his tendencies, and ensures that he becomes the hero of his own world rather than the antagonist of Hope's. For this reason, fans are enthusiastically discussing the possibility of a new love interest making an appearance soon in online forums. Casting calls for a strong, independent woman, possibly from the business world, who could match Thomas's creative intensity without becoming enmeshed in it. While many think Steffi will initially dismiss his embrace of Brooke as a temporary truce, she will be compelled to face the more profound reality that her brother is changing before her very eyes, overcoming the never-ending conflict with Brooke and entering a future in which he might actually defend the Forrester family rather than undermine it. What better evidence of that change than shocking everyone by falling in love with someone outside the Logan orbit, someone who isn't a reminder of past rivalries? However, because this is the bold and the beautiful, the gravitational pull of Hope Logan still exists and the temptation of history is still strong. As Carter Walton may soon realize when he realizes how flimsy his engagement to Hope is, and in that flimsiness lies the possibility of Thomas being dragged back into her sphere, this time not as a manipulator but as a man who offers himself honestly, changed, humbled, and ready to risk rejection for genuine love. Should that happen, the cycle might finally break, but if the writers are brave, they will pair him with someone bold and new, a woman who brings out his best self without reminding him of his worst, a woman who could infuse the Forrester-Logan-Spencer triangle with new vitality, allowing Thomas Forrester to not only surprise everyone with his impending love but also rewrite his legacy. Becoming the man Douglas needs him to be, the man his father always hoped he could become, and the man who could, at last, after decades of turmoil, stand at the altar with a clear heart, steady eyes, and a future free from obsession, retaliation, or regret. Changing from the unstable designer plagued by ghosts.